This morning, we have a lot to discuss and dissect. A lot has happened this week. A very, very eventful week in Parliament, outside Parliament, in politics, and everywhere. But the good news is about the World Health Organization declaring Uganda Ebola-free. After 4 months of Ebola outbreak, the World Health Organization this week declared Uganda Ebola-free. We know what we went through, especially those two districts of Kasanda and Mubende, which were under lockdown for more like 1.5 months, and at the end, the outbreak claimed 55 lives, hundreds survived, but thank God we are now safe, and the panel will be sharing opinions on what the strategy has been. According to the World Health Organization, the intervention, the response has been swift, and from their own words, they said Uganda's strategy was robust and comprehensive. Well, other issues to look about, will be also looking at a section actually of the controversial Computer Misuse Act, which was annulled this week by the Constitutional Court. Controversial Computer Misuse Act is specifically the provision that looks at offensive communication. Section 25 was struck down by the Constitutional Court this week. There were celebrations in sections of the public, and this law was introduced in 2012. And it has claimed victims. Some victims, many of them are actually not still in the country, and it was joy in a section of our society who looked at this law as draconian and all that. We'll give it some time. But again, the ugly face of Kampala, the shambolic state of the roads in Kampala, it has been the talk of the town for more than 3 weeks now. Thankfully, there have been efforts to patch up some of the roads in anticipation that in the near future, actually, I think it's next month, there is hope that some of the roads in Kampala will be rehabilitated, and especially after the African Development Bank kicked off a project of 1 trillion in which 69 kilometers of roads in Kampala will be paved, complete with street lights and everything from the managers. That's what they tell us. The managers of the city, that's what they tell us. But of course, the Lord Mayor decried the inflated costs of these 69 kilometers at 1 trillion, and he talks about 1 kilometer costing 14.4 billion Ugandan shillings, and he says this is obscene. Well, that's another issue we'll be looking at, especially in this program, and many other issues. Let me introduce my panel today. Dr. Gerald Werikhe Wanzala is a regular panelist here, and I am pleased again to see him here. Thank you so much, Doctor, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Apple. Good morning, viewers. I'm glad to be here. Of course, we must thank God who has kept us alive. And I'm happy to see the Deputy Lord Mayor here again. We've been following the fights in the at the City Hall, which will never end. But you know, I commend those who are fighting for truth. For the truth, and but today I got a problem, Deputy Lord Mayor. You see, you sent a message on Twitter and Facebook your resolution for this year?
Oh my God.
To get pregnant. So when I shared the advert, people are saying, hey, we are here. Tell her we want to marry her.
Interesting.
I had no answer for that.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming, Dr. Gerald Werikhe Wanzala. And Dr. Gerald Werikhe Wanzala is the head of research and civic engagement at Africa Leadership Institute, one of those NGOs that push oversight on Parliament and all other government agencies. Honorable Barnabas Tinkasimire is a regular panelist here, and he is the Member of Parliament representing Buyaga West. Thank you so much for coming, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Apollo, our host, and to our viewers, good morning, particularly those from Buyaga West constituency and those tuned on Kagadi Broadcasting Services, listening in and also viewing, those who have TV sets. It's a nice time. Always to meet my neighbor. You know, she comes from Chenjojo and I'm from from Kagadi. It's a beautiful thing that she's found a niche in the city politics, and I will invite all our people who live and work around where she to always support her, because we really want those who can show resilience and say no, anywhere you will go, as long as you show relevance, you can still lead. You can still lead, and we are very, very happy that she's a deputy road mayor.
Thank you so much.
And we want to also thank Elias Lukwago, the mayor, for finding space for one of us to serve under him. And we pray that the Lord continues to keep both the road mayor and the deputy road mayor.
Wow. That's good and impressive. Thank you so much, Honorable. But let's welcome the deputy road mayor, Honorable Doreen Nyanjura. Speak to our viewers.
Thank you so much. First and foremost, I'm so humbled by the remarks that have been made by my two panelists here. I'm really humbled, and that shows probably I'm doing something for the people of not only Kampala but for the people of Uganda. It's always a pleasure being here, and for the resolutions, the viewers, please let us leave those things on Twitter. On Twitter and Facebook.
It was a bit intriguing.
I'll respond when I go back on Twitter and Facebook. Yeah, it's always a pleasure being with you here.
Thank you so much, on viewers, on the dialogue this morning. But I must also introduce to you in absentia here the usual culprit, Richard Baguma, a communication specialist. He's watching, and he's in Addis Ababa, the capital city of Ethiopia. He's out on official duty, and he will be offered space in this program to contribute and be part of the discussion. Thank you so much. Your host, my name is Sim Apollo, and we kick off the show. I don't know if each one of us can share a highlight of this week as we start we kick off the show. Doctor?
Yeah, of course, mine is the nullification of Section 25 of the Computer Misuse Act. That now I can disturb the peace
of some
people who don't want to be disturbed. So I am happy, and I really congratulate the lawyers who went, but I also feel that other sections should actually be nullified. I think they should pursue an appeal and nullify others, because the law has a lot of sections that are vague.
Okay, Dr. Honorable Doreen, your highlight of this week?
I don't know if highlight is only meant for me to look at the positive things, but I think, honestly speaking, for me as a gender scholar and as someone who is so passionate with issues to do with human rights, I think I started the week quite on a sad note, where we are seeing an increased level of violence. And I think this started by one of my constituents, Onesimus, who was ridiculed everywhere for kneeling down and asking that, and promising that he was going to be submissive. It was quite touching for me. And when I talked to this young boy, he was so demoralized, his spirits were low. He was even considering probably committing suicide, simply because all the comedians, everyone was making fun of him. So it was really quite unfortunate that someone who genuinely loved was recorded and then he was made fun of. And of course the young girl, you know, who was beaten. I really don't get it.
Violence is...
We really need to teach our girls to compete in things that matter to them, in things that are going to enrich their lives, you know. Let them compete in class, let them compete for jobs, let them compete for leadership positions. Because if you look at the statistics, the women are still... we have a very low representation, so we need to concentrate on those things. We shouldn't really be there fighting for men, you know. That for me is really stooping too low. So my week didn't start on a very good note, and I think we really need to come up and do something. The violence is getting out of hand.
Yeah, true.
When we talk about women empowerment, it does not mean that we should start beating men. It does not mean that we should start making men appear as fools. So that is how my week started. But I definitely talked about the Computer Misuse Act, the clause that was scrapped off. For those of us that respect freedom of speech.
You want to abuse people.
Yeah, and of course for me at a personal level who has friends in exile, simply because they communicated on their social handles. That was a major highlight. And of course for the so much attention that has been given to Kampala, and specifically on the issue of roads and potholes. As a leader in Kampala, that definitely means a lot to me.
Oh yeah. Thank you so much for that highlight. Honorable, any highlight of this week?
I think maybe two things. One was very, very negative. It is a story that was carried by the Monitor. It was yesterday, something like that, of a woman who went to the hospital. She spent 5 days in the hospital without any help. And I think the man who decided to come and help, who was not the husband, decided to sleep with her in the hospital. Wow. That was a sad moment. I read the story. And for me, I will use this opportunity to call upon all men that it is a high level of responsibility to have a partner who falls sick for 5 days in the hospital and you do not even bother to find out what's going on, or even send help. If you are busy, fine, at least try to show concern, calls, send help, and things move on. But in the circumstances, the story that I read from the hospital administrator, the police investigation is currently, it's the woman was pregnant, she gets malaria, and you know malaria is very dangerous for a pregnant mother. 5 days in the hospital, the man is not showing up, and this is what happened.
And the predator comes.
This is what happened. It was a very, very sad thing. So men, please save humanity. The dignity of this woman, who is going to be a mother of a great person tomorrow, that we have to protect. It could be your sister. It could have been your mother one time, facing the same challenge. So please try to be normal and behave in a way that dignifies mankind. Of course, the computer misuse was perfect for me. Was a good ruling that we received maybe in the beginning of 2023. 23. Because I do not believe, I do not believe in suffocating people who want to speak. Me, I'm a politician. I was very fortunate to have studied political science at Makerere University. Not every person abusing you, even criticizing you, that you is really doing it in some people help you anyway. It could be that you have erred somewhere and you need to be helped by some blunt truth, which some people reflect as abuse. Two, there are instances when people can only vent their anger through such a way, and if they do not vent it that way, they can use other means, either by using the guns.
Honorable, tell our viewers that now we kick off the show. We cannot wait. Let's go straight to that topic. Go right ahead. Tell us why you support the offensive clause in the Computer Misuse Act.
First of all, it came in a bad faith. I remember submitting here and also on some other media, that the person who brought the amendment was just hired.
Honorable Nsereko.
Yes.
Muhammad.
Yes. And when we met, we squared one-on-one. We agreed that we cease fire, but I assured him that since they have gone to court, his amendment may never see the light of the tunnel tomorrow. I am happy that what I told him before even the end of 3 months, it is no longer on the law shelves.
But Honorable, it's on a section that was struck out.
But that was the major one.
Provisions.
That was the major one. The other ones are they are inconsequential. They just came in to address this other major one. I am glad the major one was pulled out, and any other subsequent amendments that were made in a good faith, they will stay as part of the good law of computer misuse. And I pray that those who will feel offended as Ugandans communicate, they do not resort to torture, to torturing them. The way we saw Kakwenza being tortured and fleeing this country, for only mentioning that someone has big bums like a woman. Because even under the law, you get me, under the law, there is there is what we call defamation. Defamation only occurs when somebody is actually trying to say what is not true. But if I am saying what is true, that you have a big bums and you have big bums, it is not defamation. Yes, it is not.
So what now remains for those who were pushing for this particular law? Because me and you know that
I want
very important persons in this country.
The nullification of this bill, of this law, shows that those who are pushing that you cannot have everything in this country. This country belongs to all Ugandans, 45 million Ugandans. And if, as long as you continue oppressing them, they will find a remedy. Those who ran to court, they were the best. But others would also wait for you. Instead of abusing you, he waits for you in the corner and boxes you. Instead of abusing you on the social media, abusing you on Twitter, he waits for you very, very well in a very good place, like those ones who love drinking. Drinking, he pretends, he puts there his bottle like this. You also come and share. When he has been waiting for that opportunity, he punches you properly in the eyes. And that would not really be good. I normally equate suffocating speech
freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech with a jerrycan. There is a local drink called kwete.
Oh.
Kwete is known to have too much pressure. Me, I grew up when we would brew it and take it to the trading center to sell and get money for fees. If you put it in a jerrycan and you tighten it without giving it some space, I want to tell you, you cannot walk for 2 kilometers without the lid giving way. So ordinarily the best way to carry that kwete jerrycan is carry it for some short distance, remove it from the head, release some pressure. Release some pressure. So when you have society which does not vent out, this is where we have found things coming up like suicide, things like terrorism, without allowing people to speak. In my constituency, I have there, I would call it a very dangerous group called Bukitarepa. Bukitarepa is Bunyoro Reparation something. For them, their work is to promote tribalism. To say a Munyoro is more superior than any other person. Whereas I agree that there is history has it that Banyoro we are very, very superior people, and I still hold the same view. But I hold the same view that other tribes are equally important in Banyoro. This group, many people have said they should not even allow it space to speak anywhere. I've said the day we will close it out for them not to speak anywhere, they will start holding undercover meetings, which will be very, very dangerous, particularly to our groups of people, because they can go in villages and start terrorizing our people. They plan, and without knowing what exactly they are planning, they will invade the village and finish it. But now, because we gave them space, we said, okay, you come and speak even on the radio. We see whom you are going to injure. They will plan, they will go on the radio. Then they leave when they are full of energy. Yes, we told them, but even if you spoke, who is going to leave his land?
It's a relief, Honorable.
Yes, psychologically it is helping them to steam off. And in the process, you will find when they are slowly by slowly accepting other tribes.
Good.
And they will steam off and integrate eventually. I don't think that they can carry this message for 20 years. They cannot. They will not.
Okay. Honorable, thank you so much. Let me hear from you, Honorable Doreen. What do you think of this ruling?
Well, first and foremost, I'm happy that Ugandans had from the word go rejected this useless bill or act. Because for me, who is very active online, you realize that really Uganda thought this was some comedy of sorts. So Ugandans over time have learned not to pay attention to issues that they are not supposed to pay attention to. But what is so sad for me is that this bill was being spearheaded by a lawyer who by all standards should know that people's rights of expression ought to be respected. So it was an embarrassment and it was a shame, I think, for a lawyer like Honorable Muhammad Nsereko to stoop that low and saying no, computer misuse and all that. So I don't know what had come over him. Probably, like Honorable has said, this is someone who was hired. And maybe we also need to revisit the history and understand when exactly did he try to come up with this law. Was it after the talk show that he had with one of the lawyers and the exchange was probably beyond his imagination, and then he decided to react the way he did? I think that is not the way laws are made. That is not how legislators should legislate on behalf of the people that they represent, especially for him, really, who represents Kampala, Kampala Central, with all the challenges, with all the problems of the business community. We are going to be talking about potholes, that of all the problems affecting his constituents, the only thing he could think about
offensive speech.
Was offensive speech. The other thing that I find so ironical is, I don't know how many of us here follow Muhammad Nsereko on Facebook and the way he communicates. So probably he was even going to be the first victim of his own law, because the things he says, the way he communicates, really, it's ironical.
He's offensive in its way.
He's very offensive on the way he communicates.
And he gives us unsolicited.
Exactly, he's very offensive, very offensive. For me, I think if I was to reward Max, probably him and Muhozi would top on those that are on the list of those that are carrying out offensive communication. And of course, this law, whom was it targeting? Because I've already stated here that Nsereko has been very offensive on in his communications. How come he has never been arrested? I've also talked about MK and how he communicates, how he's going to attack Nairobi, how he posts other people's wives and says that he's attracted to them and he can give cows and all that. How come they have never been arrested? You get it? So it has been targeting the opposition, and specifically those that speak against the regime. That is why we saw Stella Nyanzi being convicted. Of course, she later won the case. She spent the whole year in Luzira prison, and we all know what happened. She lost her pregnancy. We saw my friend Kakweza, who up to now, the kind of torture that he went through, he has never recovered. So there's a group of people, and several other opposition activists have been targeted. But we've seen the head of state go on his handles on social media and call people idiots, you know. I mean, it has not come for him and those that support him. So, well, it's a relief, because for those of us that speak for and on behalf of the opposition, definitely our spaces of communication have been reducing. I am happy that maybe SALT is hosting me, but we have seen on several occasions Dr. Chiza Besigye being pulled out of radio station studios, TV station studios. So online has been the way to go for us. Yes.
But I'm concerned, Honorable. Whereas Section 25 of the Computer Misuse Act has been annulled, we have had previous experiences of sections of laws being annulled. For instance, the POMA Act.
Exactly.
It is this Section 8 or 10 which was also annulled. Did it change anything? That annulment, did it change anything? Because I expect you were a victim of POMA in any way.
Oh yes, I am.
But did anything change
You
with
see,
the annulment of those sections?
Of course, it has not changed, and even before POMA came into existence, there was already a court ruling where Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi had gone to court, and the court had pronounced itself to the effect that if you're going to hold a demonstration, you did not need any permission from police. So then now, the head of state had to go through parliament, and POMA came through. So we do not celebrate because the court ruling is going to be respected, because of course there are many court rulings that have not been respected. We saw the Black Mambas taking over court, but we celebrate at least, you know, when we live in a country where judicial officials have to first get orders from above. When they make such a pronouncement, it is to their credit. At least it will go in history that when freedom of speech, when the freedom of speech was under threat, there are Ugandans like Aaron Chiza, Karamaji, and others who went to court to challenge this, and their judicial officers made a pronouncement and said that was illegal. So that is why we celebrate.
And a precedent is set.
Yes, so we are not, personally, I am not celebrating that I will not be picked tomorrow because maybe I have offended the president or the first lady or the first son. No, I am celebrating because there are Ugandans who decided to challenge that in courts of law. And like I have stated from the word go, even before court pronounced itself, Ugandans had totally ignored, you know, this whole law, and they were moving on and they were doing their business as usual. They were not silenced. They were not intimidated.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gerald. You do oversight on Parliament. This law, this particular legislation did not find issues going through Parliament. It sailed through very fast.
Yeah, that's what I was actually
now
coming
it has been
to.
allowed, sections.
The speed at which this law went through to the passing was very quick. And yet there are other laws in Parliament that are so pertinent to the well-being of the people, but they are not given that time. And then when the presiding officer, who was the speaker in the seat, chairing the House, I saw her behaving
the recent amendment.
Yes, there is amendment, behaving in a very partisan way, including telling MPs, members, haven't you ever been abused on social media? You know, if you are presiding over Parliament, you want a law, you should not make that law for yourself. Each of us are insulted, okay? But then the Constitution protects the freedom of speech, freedom of expression. And it is very clear that any law which contradicts the Constitution is a nullity. And then we have been seeing people taking advantage of this to do other criminal acts in their offices. For instance, I and some people created a group called Namisindwa Today to fight corruption in my district, because some of these new districts are riddled with corruption, no service delivery. People will get money for gratuity, 500 million shillings on the account. Then they deal with the banker, not earn from it interest. Then they return it to the consolidated fund. But the PIP files are piling up in the district. So when we created that platform, there are activists on the ground who get this information and share to raise awareness. But the district leadership connives with the police to arrest some people. Hey, we are charging you with the Computer Misuse Act. So we have been having that. So people say, to try to intimidate people for them to benefit and keep feasting on public resources while people are suffering. So for me, I'm celebrating because one, if I'm taken to court, even if they violate and they take me to court, like they have been doing with the POMA, I know that the laws at some point may protect me in the courts of law. This Honorable Nyanjura, they have been arrested several times. Dr. Kiza Besije. But because there are sections in the POMA that were nullified, you will intimidate them, you will jail them, but you will never win a case against them. So eventually you just become a tool for oppression. And when I look at the origin of this law, the Honorable Seriko, I follow him on Facebook and other social media networks. He's one who actually liked a lot engaging. He knows the value of freedom of expression. Facebook Live broadcast, I'm speaking to my people. But you know, the dynamics of politics in Kampala changed, especially when NUP came in. There are some Red Army people who are insulting. She can bear witness. I would see people abuse her. But she has never been extreme. She will respond and then listen. And I think she's one of those who are working well. You see the council, the KCCA. I think FDC has only 2 people. But they are relating well with the new people. But then there are followers who may not be guided either because of differences in understanding. So if you take it personal and you say that I, Honorable Serika, have been abused, therefore let me introduce a law to muzzle, to zip these people, you are wasting time. I can assure you communication is not stoppable. It is not. The president recently was in Washington and said he may consider opening Facebook, and I saw people laughing. That
we already
have been on Facebook.
He's also there. He's actually there.
Yeah, he's also there. So which Facebook is he going to reopen?
On Facebook.
Yes.
So it is a relief. Much as my worry is well, I think you talked about it. Even when the laws such sections are annulled, the perpetrators of violence use violent means to suppress and to victimize the people.
Actually, they will arrest you, they take you to police, then they begin now cooking, fishing for cases. What can we what can we charge this person with? At the end of the day, when you look at the offense, you can't even begin laughing.
But it is victory, no? All the same.
Absolutely. To the people of Uganda, to the constitution of Uganda.
Honorable, what does it now speak to the house you sit in?
No, of course.
You have these laws go through very fast, and they are challenged. Well,
you know, we have a crop of timid legislators who have not found their footing yet in the house. We are going to the third year. Soon we are finishing second year. I don't know when they will catch up, but I expected stiff resistance against any attempt by anyone having to amend a law trying to gag our voters. Today, the biggest number of voters are younger people. They are the ones using smartphones. And really, for me, even if they say offensive communication, me who is in the public eyes, I know that even if you choose to abuse me, you can do it for a month, but not beyond a month. I can ignore you. I love, this is why I love Museveni. Although he closed the Facebook, Museveni has been abused. But he would behave like, you know, we have a very bad animal, a baboon. You know a baboon?
Yes.
A baboon, it will ignore you as if it has not even seen you. That's how the president ignores those who choose to abuse him. To abuse him. And at the end of the day, he has scored. He has been described as somebody who is tolerant. So I think in the House, anyone again who will attempt to introduce such a law, members of Parliament will have a second thought. And one of the things I think why they took advantage, Honorable Sereko took advantage of the vacuum which I would say they had just had a problem with the Honorable Zake. So they thought this was also another type. And he took advantage of that gap and dived with his bill, and it went through. But ordinarily, I don't think that it should have gone through. I want to, if he's listening or his supporters, to take seriously what Honorable Nyanjura submitted. You can't be a person leading a town constituency, a city constituency, where I would say 60-70% of the people here have smartphones. They communicate through social media. And where even there is a lot of volatility, by the way, here, a hostility in this area. They are abusing children. You remember even what that for you to post something, you have to first ask the person.
But those provisions remain. They are still there. This specifically talks about offensive speech. the one that has been struck down.
But even that one will be followed up, I know.
Yeah, there are cases in court.
Because citizen journalism was being stifled,
Yes.
by such things. We have been helped by by people who post pictures of videos of maids abusing children at home. Somebody is passing, maybe a maid was left with a child. The people who the owners, the parents have gone to work. Now this maid takes advantage of the absence of the parents, starts to torture the child. Now a passerby with his smartphone
has to seek consent,
finds this rude maid, because either any other reasons, is just terrorizing the child, picks the video, posts it, and the child is rescued quickly. Also, the maid is apprehended. That type of citizen journalism was being stifled, and yet was very useful.
Okay.
We believe that if we continue to kill society like that, simply because we are in positions of responsibility, then it will be bad for us.
It will be bad for
and mainly the members of parliament will now to have to focus on the actual problems of this country.
Okay, Honorable,
people are struggling to find what to eat. Now January, February is opening, struggles for fees is going to be real. I saw in the newspaper UNEP wants to increase the UNEP fees. These are some of the things members of parliament we should focus on. The transformation of our people. Parish development model. We are now in the third quarter. We would be interested in knowing how much has been dispersed, how people are accessing this money on the ground. Is it really causing an impact?
You are busy essentially in Namuganza.
I know.
I need to read this comment, Honorable, from Baguma Richard. He says, like I said before, the nullification is welcome. There are other sections which I believe will be annulled. My colleagues in studio should also emphasize that computer misuse is real. That it is real,
yes,
computer misuse. Clear and specific legislation on computer misuse related evils, e.g. cyberbullying, cyber harassment, child pornography, etc. should be implemented. So you remember Richard Baguma, his submission on this, he emphasizes that it is real.
No, we agree. There are certain
the legislation. Actually, from what I can recall from his submission, he opines that the legislation is necessary, but he doesn't support some specific provisions in this law.
You see, everything has its own pros and cons. So it is wrong. I think for me, really, I cannot start putting much of my focus on what is not to a large extent is going to be of negative impact. So if we are talking about the Computer Misuse Act and we are talking about offensive communication, I think it's only proper that we put much emphasis. One, the spirit behind which this unfortunate law was brought. And these are the examples that we are talking about, that because Honorable Zake offended the speaker in his communication on Twitter, before even you verify whether it was indeed his Twitter account, then it becomes very easy for the law to pass. I think that is why we need to put most of our emphasis. We've all been bullied, you know, but have we come up with laws? Have we tried to slap these people or beat them or injure them? I think we need to look at the bigger picture. And I think if we are to do an analysis, we realize that this was meant to suffocate alternative voices that were coming out, and really we cannot go by that. But like I have said, of course we live in a country where we have rule by law as opposed to rule of law. I don't know if you know the difference. that when if Honorable Tinkasimire feels offended by what I have said, he says I'm now coming up with a law for Nyanjura to stop abusing me. That because the opposition is going to be holding rallies against the regime, then a law is put in place that is ruled by law to make sure that the opposition does not hold rallies, and the country cannot be run like that.
Thank you, Honorable, and it is time we go for a break. This is The Dialogue, our viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in, especially those listening in over Kagadi Broadcasting Service. We thank you so much for pushing our voices further, and the management and everyone in that region. We thank you so much for being part of this program, and everyone watching across the globe. We'll be going for a break, but we still have Honorable Barnabas Tinkasimire, Buyaga West MP. We have Honorable Nyanjura Doreen, the Deputy Lord Mayor for Kampala Capital City, and we have Dr. Gerald Werikhe Wanzala, who is the Head of Research and Civic Engagement at Africa Leadership Institute, an NGO that does oversight on Parliament and other government bodies. My name is Simapolo. Let's go for a break. We have much more in store. We have to look at the ugly face of Kampala. The Deputy Lord Mayor is here. This is The Dialogue. My name is Simapolo. Honorable Barnabas Tinkasimire, Member of Parliament for Buyaga West, is in the studio. Honorable Doreen Nyanjura, the Deputy Lord Mayor for Kampala Capital City, is in the studios. And Dr. Gerald Werikhe Wanzala is with us. Richard Baguma Tinkasimire is out of the country, but we are connecting, and we'll be getting his comments on all the topics that we have on the menu. And let's shift and now look at the Ebola strategy and the good news that came in this week, that Ebola has been completely suppressed. After 42 days with no new case, Uganda, together with partners, including the World Health Organization, declared the country Ebola-free after 4 months of the outbreak. And from the communication we have got from the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization, this has been a swift response. Possibly it can be attributed to the previous experiences with this particular outbreak. It can be attributed to some other factors, but we'll be seeking opinions from the panelists what they think possibly could have possibly made this possible. But the challenges remain. Some few challenges remain, and I will highlight one or two in this Ebola fight so that the panelists can start from there. I talked to the frontline workers themselves, and they told me they had inadequate PPEs, protection gear, gloves, those protection clothing they put on. They had that challenge, and that was a big challenge because it led to 6 frontline health workers dying. They are now part of the fatalities, 55. There are 6. We lost 6 medical workers in this fight. And again, they talked about risk allowances. The health workers who were on the front line in the fighting Ebola, many of them were actually were on voluntary service. They offered voluntary service, and you feel that patriotism, real patriotism. They were volunteers, and they were promised risk allowances. Actually, they are entitled to risk allowances. And I talked to one of them last evening, Dr. Aaron, and he's a member of Uganda Medical Association, and he told me some of the part of the risk allowances has not been paid even up today, has not been paid. So they were actually urging government to pay. They sacrificed their lives to save Ugandans, but they have not been paid risk allowances. Dr. Gerald Werikhe Wanzala, give it your shot in just 4 minutes.
Of course, I congratulate our people of Uganda. You know, Ebola is very lethal. It kills a lot, but the strategies we employed like you rightly said, come from the experience. The first time we got Ebola was 1997, I think, when we lost Dr. Lukwea. From then, we have been building capacity. But sometimes there are challenges that come in to do with the corruption, appetite for money. And then we ignore things like allowances to the front line. But this time, there was also a change in the strategy, whereby development partners like the Americans, who put in the biggest amount of money through CDC, the money was channeled to other agencies, NGOs, and because they discovered there was some falsification of data. Like you remember, there were a number of people who even wanted Kampala to be closed, because, and yet the same people were attending huge music shows, congested. So there was a contradiction. This meant that the government has, that the intelligence agencies working with government partners had to go and investigate. Is it really necessary that Kampala should be closed because of maybe one case in Ilubya, Masanafu, and things like that? So, may I think this way of working are not injecting all the money to the ministry. The ministry can keep coordination, the secretariat to coordinate like they have been doing. But the appetite for money sometimes underplays the good in everything. Our tourism industry was just recovering from COVID, and I can assure you, I have a friend, when they announced Ebola, there were cancellations everywhere. So again, it hit the economy. So, but I congratulate the medical people, and maybe we can learn this method really worked of having the government but so many other agencies involved. I was amazed. This week there was a Ebola Partners Conference where they announced that out of the $81 million that was collected to fight Ebola, these agencies, they gave money, have a balance of $41 million
they returned
to return. So if that money is to be returned, it can go to recovery, because recovery efforts in Mubende and Mitiana, because closing people for about 3 months without working, I know livelihoods were hurt. But if that man had gone to government, probably the whole of it would have disappeared. As you know, the disease in this country.
Well, Honorable Doreen, give it a shot. What do you think about this, they call swift response this time?
Well, I don't know if it was indeed swift, but maybe to just give some bit of background. Ebola first hit this country not in 1997, but in 2000. That is, if I'm to go by the account given by Dr. Olive Kovsinja in her book, The Patient. And it was discovered in Gulu, where, of course, we lost one of the most celebrated, the doctor who really was at the forefront, patriotic, and that is Dr. Matthew Lukwea. And during that time, around 400 Ugandans were able to recover, but we lost around 224 of them lost their lives. Of course, it was very challenging. People started saying it was witchcraft and all that. And as a country, we are not prepared. Now, after that, 7 years later, Ebola also hit Bundibujo. And as it was the case in 2000, still in Bundibujo when Ebola hit in 2007, lives were lost. Not only lives for patients, but even those that were attending to them, the health workers. And I think that the issues that led to their death have not changed. It is the same that you're narrating up to now. Now come 2021, you have just given us the figures. 55 people lost their lives. Unfortunately, as lives are being lost, many people look at this as a celebration. It is a celebration to them. It is an opportunity for them to eat. It is an opportunity for them to build mansions, you know. And I am happy that the partners this time round said, no, we are not going to give this money to government. Let us give the money to NGOs, and we have already it has already been reported that there is even a balance that was retained. Now, of course, the issue of Ebola cannot be looked at in isolation. We have to look at the entire health system. That yes, is there leadership who is speaking for and on behalf of the health workers that are losing their lives? What are they up to, you know? We are seeing the leader of the doctors, instead of talking about these crucial issues, how our health system is on the deathbed, kneeling before the head of state and telling him, you have done so well.
Come back 2026.
Really, it is very unfortunate. It is very unfortunate that we continue losing health workers, we continue losing so many Ugandans, and the leadership that all that the leadership can offer is them to kneel and tell Mr. Museveni to please come back in 2020 to come and contest in 2026. So there's really a very big gap there. But again, who is supposed to speak for and on behalf? There's an incident that happened, is it over the weekend, last weekend, about Honorable Badio Munsi, who has been moving all over the radio stations, TV stations, and saying all is well, you know, hospitals have been built.
The government spokesman.
Yes, can you imagine? And this is the government spokesman. Only for him to collapse from Kanungu,
Kambuga Hospital.
and he was not taken to, he was not treated from Kambuga Hospital, he was not taken to Mbara Hospital, he was not taken to Kabale, but they used a chopper to bring him where?
Kampala.
To Kampala, with a chopper. So imagine if he had also contracted Ebola. Imagine if he had contracted COVID, probably he would not have been lucky to survive. But imagine if it was how many other citizens are dying because we cannot send a chopper to go and pick them. And for me, I really think this mockery needs to stop.
Okay.
You know, that a minister has collapsed. He got dizzy, according to what he said, that he got dizzy and they had to send a chopper to go and do what? To go and pick him, and so that he comes and get treatment. So this talks to our health system, that it's eventually it's going to come even for those that think they're high profile, you know, and they will have nowhere to go, and they will definitely, we might lose them. And indeed, as it has happened, we know the examples of the so many high profile Ugandans, you know, that have lost their lives. That yes, we have, and of course he has talked about the economy being affected, you know. Personally, I traveled around that time, and when you'd go out of the country, you'd be isolated, you know, because you're coming from Uganda, and then you'd be sprayed like a mosquito. I know of also so many Ugandans who missed their flights because Uganda had Ebola. I also know of the conferences that were supposed to take place here, and they never took place here. So we really need to rethink the way we do our things. Okay. And of course, this was not quite different from Ebola, where Ugandans are being beaten and they are being forced to stay in their houses and they starve to death, you know. And of course, many of them said, instead of dying because of hunger, let us at least go and die of Chiboko. It became an opportunity for the men in uniform to start extorting money, you know, so that they let people move, you know. So it's very unfortunate that when we have such incidences, it is seen as an opportunity. And then there was something, as I conclude, that really shocked me, that we are saying there's Ebola, and people are dying, and then they gave 2 weeks, I think it was 3 weeks, they said now the term for schools was going to be cut short. I mean, it was so ridiculous, and it did not make sense to me. You're saying people are dying, but you're saying let the students continue being at school, and in 2 weeks, that is when they're going to go home. And yet these students are even actually in an environment that was being regulated, an environment that was being managed by the school authorities. So the way we handle things, I think we only survive on God's mercy.
Learners lost 2 weeks. They were sent away 2 weeks earlier.
Yes, but that was something to do with the economy. It didn't have anything to do with Ebola. So Ebola was just really
Thank you.
excuse.
Thank you so much. It's a relief that we are now Ebola free. Honorable, in just a few minutes, I wish you talk about really how the frontline workers could not be paid.
And yet the money was passed by Parliament.
Even when...
One, I want to thank God who made us survive. Because even if we have now a name that we are the best fighters of Ebola, I saw some unpreparedness on our side. When they were announcing figures, the actual figures which were on the ground we are just being hidden to manage public relations. So that's why I have to thank God who made us get out of that crisis. Because in the circumstances that you are not speaking out the truth, people can die in masses. Two, I want to thank the health workers who offered their lives and worked tirelessly. Because even if you say they were going to get a risk allowance, there is no amount of risk that you can undertake that is equivalent to your life.
True.
Three, I will use this opportunity that the ministry should start thinking about a policy of where during an epidemic all health workers in the area of the epidemic have life insurance.
I think that's important.
It's very, very critical because we are talking about now managing the consequences of Ebola. The people who died, particularly the health workers, now their families are going to be struggling. Whereas if there would be this life insurance of this health worker, the family would return to that insurance to make sure that at least they move forward. But it's not there. Then I learned a lesson because I traveled during this period of Ebola. I went to...
Even Kagadi was listed as one of the affected districts.
I went to US. Immediately we reached Washington airport. I'm telling you, that's when I started saying, yes, there are some very, very serious governments. All our details, they already had them. In a very, very short time, we did not take even 5 minutes in the queue. All of us, the entire group, we were like 7. We had already been picked up and taken to a particular private place and surrounded by very many medical workers, covered, taking tests, doing what, all with even all the documents leading to our entry. Then we were asked, we were going to which hotel, and the vehicles to deliver us to those particular hotels were available from the Ministry of Health. And the rooms in which we were checked in, each of us was given a telephone line to be on 24 hours for 21 days. for 21 days. And they, even at midnight, they would call. You hear the phone calling.
To make sure that you are safe.
Yes. Finding out, could you have traveled when you had this virus had not emerged and emerges in their country? How would they respond?
So I think, Honorable, you're talking about how prepared a government can be,
yes,
to avert a possible threat,
yes,
of Ebola or any other infection.
I saw a very, very serious government. How I wish this government now being celebrated
with our porous borders.
Yeah, because every Ugandan, everyone entering this country should be known and captured as such. And of course, we should ask, how did the people get this Ebola? Not to loosen up and say Ebola has gone away, because it is in the monkeys. Ugandans have become so desperate, they don't have food, they don't have sources of protein, they resort to killing monkeys, chimpanzees.
This was Ebola Sudan. I think it was imported from Sudan or DRC?
Sudan.
Sudan.
Sudan. So people still have to be carrying on the messages, how Ebola is, how it is acquired.
Okay.
Such that we do not, particularly the issue of sensitization.
Okay.
It keeps carrying.
Honorable, in a minute, speak about why would, at this point, frontline workers should not be paid. Just in 1 minute.
I even do not understand it, because if they are saying money is being returned, why are they returning the money without paying the workers?
No, they are paid through the ministry, and from what we've picked, the funds that have been returned, I think it was from the partners.
Was the ministry not given money?
It was given some money.
Okay.
So if it was given money, why are they not paying them? Of course, I have found what people allege about the Ministry of Health. Sometimes to be true, that ministry is being led by very corrupt people, and that corruption is actually hampering the delivery of services to the ordinary person.
Okay.
It has to do with those at the top level. These ones in the middle, those ones shielding the burden of Ebola, they are really suffering. They are really suffering. So the leadership of the Ministry of Health, Dr. Cheng and Dr. Diana, yes, we know you are comfortable, but make sure that these people are paid. Why should it take centuries for health workers to be paid?
Okay. Honorable, thank you so much. And a message here alleges that even KCCA was paid a chunk of money to fight Ebola. Is it true, Honorable Road Mayor, Deputy?
I'm not aware of that. Yes.
Okay. It's unfortunate that Richard Baguma cannot go through. Being told there are issues with connectivity, but you can send your comments, Richard. Send your comments, and I will be able to read them out. And let me also inform our viewers that you can be part of this discussion. Send your message on WhatsApp. The number will be rolling on your screen: 0701 60 9906. 0701 60 9906. Send your comment on any of these issues that are being discussed in the studios. Honorable and the honorables and Doctor, can we switch in the interest of time and look at Kampala and this face of this pothole city, and also with the road mayor? Are you concerned that you're in leadership of a city that is well known by from potholes, bursting sewage water and water flooding everywhere every time it rains?
Am I what?
Are you concerned that you are part of that leadership?
Definitely, I have always been concerned, and I am concerned. The only difference this time round is that I am happy. that this has stopped being a fight for the elected leaders at KCCA. It has stopped being a concern for the Lord Mayor, the Deputy, and maybe the councillors, that now this has become a national concern, and that the public and the media has picked interest in the status of our city. So I am happy, and I need to give the media credit, because these are things that we have been talking about over and over again. 11 years ago, when Jennifer Msisi was still the ED, she was grappling with the same issues. She was talking about underfunding, she was talking about potholes. So this is something that this is something that we have grappled with over time. And of course, if you look at the KCCA budget, it has not been increasing. The KCCA budget has just been going down. And maybe to just give you a snapshot, and specifically to look at the engineering budget, 2020-2021, the budget was 87 billion. That is specifically for engineering, and then we had 26 billion, which was looking at road maintenance. And 2021-2022, the budget was 78 billion. You realize it now reduced from the 87 billion. The budget was 78 billion, and the road maintenance fund was maintained at 26 billion. Now, when we come to this financial year, the budget for engineering is 0%. There was no money allocated for engineering from government. And when you look at the road fund, the money that is meant to do maintenance reduced from the 26 billion, and it came down to 10 billion. So definitely you will expect to have a crisis. You'll expect to have a crisis. Now, as if that is not enough, that even these little monies that are allocated for engineering, it is also misappropriated. It is also misused. It is stolen. And that is why the city is suffering. Because we have had several reports. We have the City Public Accounts Committee. And all these irregularities have been pointed out. Reports have been presented before the ministers in charge of Kampala. A same report was presented before the IGG, telling her how we are suffering, telling her how the money is being swindled, and yet there is little work that is being done.
Maybe she's finding out whether somebody has built an arcade, because the principal told her to go slowly on those using the money to build arcades, to construct schools, hotels, to go slowly. She could be finding out whether the 10 billion is now building somewhere an arcade, a hotel, things like that.
Probably we shall hope to hear from her. But you know, like these exorbitant costs, you know, and this is what prompted us to come out, you know, and say no, this cannot be. Because if you look at the construction, the cost of constructing 1 kilometer, for example, in Rwanda, it is estimated to be around 5 billion. When you come to Kenya and Tanzania, a kilometer is estimated to cost around 7 billion.
Really?
Yes, when you come to Masaka, and these are the people that are also in the same jurisdiction, you'll find that they are not going beyond 2 billion. So what exactly is happening to the roads in Kampala? Are we constructing roads that are self-contained? That when you look at the previous contracts by World Bank, a kilometer of road construction in Kampala was at 10 billion. Now with these monies that you're talking about from the African Development Bank, for this financial year, thanks to them anyway, that we are now going to construct at least 69 kilometers of the roads, you know. A kilometer of a road has been put at 14.4 billion.
In Rwanda, it is 5 billion.
In Rwanda, it is 5 billion.
In Ugandan shillings.
Yes, in Ugandan shillings. In Tanzania and in Kenya, it is 7 billion. And in Uganda now, okay, let me not say Uganda, in Kampala, a kilometer has been put at 14.4 billion. So you realize that.
And you think they have been inflated? The costs have been inflated? Of
course they have been inflated. Don't you think they have been inflated? And I've listened to some leaders saying, no, they are for traffic lights. But when you move around Kampala, for example, we know we need around 400,000 is it 400,000? I'll have to cross-check the lights that we need, the security lights. But we do not have that required amount. They are saying that, no, the figure is that much because we also have to look at the construction of toilets. But when you move around these roads that have been constructed, are there toilets? Are the toilets there? The toilets are definitely not there. So there's money that is being swindled. But now the other fact that I don't want us to ignore is the lifespan of our roads, honestly speaking. The engineers say that the lifespan of our road is around 15 years. Now, when you look at our roads, many of them are 35 years, many of them are 20 years, but also the contractors are doing shoddy work. That you find a road has been constructed today, when you pass on that same road after a month, what do you find? You find potholes. So I think this should not be left to only us, the leaders in Kampala. And that is why we have made an outcry to Parliament. Honorable Barnabas Tinkasimire, this is coming to you. The Lord Mayor formally wrote to the leader of the opposition, and we hope this issue is going to be raised on the floor of Parliament. We need to be concerned because Kampala is the capital state. It's the only capital city that we have. It is the mirror, it is the face of this country. Now, this being the old city and the capital city, new cities have been created, and they are coming to do benchmarking. But where do we take them?
Okay.
Where do we take them? Are we going to take them to potholes? Are we going to take them to garbage, the garbage that is all over? And yet, as elected leaders, these are things that we have been talking about. In all our priorities, we have been prioritizing road construction, we have been talking about garbage collection, but we have always been told there is no money for garbage collection. We have always been told there is no money for road construction.
As political leaders in the city, you have powers, according to the Act, to intervene. And actually, like in authorization of tenders for all contracts, where do you stop and what have you done?
Oh, of course, maybe unless you're quoting the old acts that came before us. But currently, as the situation is, the Lord Mayor is not even a witness of the contracts that are awarded.
Even the authority?
Oh yes, even the authority is not. This has been entirely left to the technical wing. And for your information, maybe for the information of those that are watching, we have been requesting for bills of quantities from the technical team. We have been requesting to at least have a look at the contracts that have been awarded. We have never gotten any, The ED will move around in circles.
The technical wing doing everything.
It is the technical wing, and we are going to start with the procurement and the contracts committee, because for us as politicians, we do not sit there. And you realize that is irregular, because how exactly is the Lord Mayor going to supervise?
What is your input? What is your role?
Now, if you know the history of Kampala, and specifically when the Lord Mayor, the current Lord Mayor came into office, you realize that there are some laws that have been made specifically targeting him as an individual. You have even watched the head of state moving around and saying, "Yamuteka mwe chijegere." That is what? That is he's powerless. So regardless of the law, which seems to be to a larger extent seeking to make us ceremonial, we have said no, we are not going to accept that, because as elected leaders, it is our mandate to make sure that the taxpayers' money is used the way it is supposed to be used. So that is why we are not stopping. That is why we are warning the cartels, and we are telling them we are coming for you. And now they are moving from one radio station to another, trying to defend issues that they cannot definitely defend. So we are going for them. And we are calling, the Lord Mayor is calling a meeting where all the contractors are going to be summoned. Let us see the contractor who will miss, where the technical team will come. Wait a minute. And they account to the citizens of this country.
You said the authority has no powers over contracts, but you're saying you are going to summon the contractors to appear.
Well, that is a different thing. Me not signing on the contract does not mean that I cannot summon the contractors.
Okay.
That is
So
a different thing.
The authority has powers to summon.
Yes,
the
and we are
contractors
going to summon them, and they will explain
That's
to
what I
us.
was asking for.
And I watched with a lot of shock, you know, the state minister for Kampala telling these contractors that he's the above. That if other people summon these people, the contractors are summoned, they should not show up. So mine is to assure the people of Kampala that we are going to fight for the taxpayers' money.
Okay.
We are going to make sure whoever is swindling this money is held accountable.
I'll start with Honorable. What do you see here from the Lord Mayor's submission, Deputy Lord Mayor's submission, and what is happening? What is in this city? I stay here in Asana, but crossing over to my workplace here is a hassle. When it rains, when it shines, it is a hassle. A vehicle from Nasana to here.
I was privileged to participate in the first KCCA that was led by Jennifer Musisi. And subsequently, I saw a political fight between the Lord Mayor and Jennifer Musisi, and then events that turned up to amend the KCCA Act, which the Deputy Lord Mayor Nyanjura is referring to, trying to usurp the powers of the politicians, that they should remain ceremonial. I think even when you make a law, where do you put the will of the people which still insists that they should be in charge? This is why you can see a crisis. You know, when you are a minister of such an institution, you should be a transparent minister. If you are going to say contractors should not go to attend a meeting of technical people, what are you trying to hide? I mean, of politicians, what are you trying to hide? I would encourage the contractors to go and explain what they are doing. I would actually be the chairperson of that meeting as a minister. Explain what you have been doing. Because if you say you have done, let me talk about Kalerwe. Is it Kalerwe? No. Kasubi. Kasubi Kawala Road. Because I stay in Kawempe, so sometimes to cut jam the other side, I pass this side. That road is bad because of the potholes. If you are saying the contractor has finished it, and me, the councillor, who sits with the Lord Mayor, I know it is not done. I would be interested in seeing that contractor who finished that Kawara Road. Explain it to them. Now they have given them a lot of money. When you see the type, she's talking about the cost of a kilometer.
Yeah.
That is, you know, there are different types of tarmac. There is a low cost tarmac and a high cost tarmac. Are they talking about the low cost? It is because most of the roads in Kampala, they are low cost.
Yeah, true.
They are low cost tarmac.
But they are expensive.
Are those the ones they are talking of 14 billion? Because the most expensive road is this express highway to Entebbe that has lived in sub-Saharan Africa, actually even in the world. They constructed a kilometer over at 26 billion. It is going to take according to the estimates they are collecting, it is going to take over 60 years for us to pay for those 53 kilometers.
Yeah, 2-lane dual carriage. 4-lane. Eh?
So this money they are costing. This money the minister does not want the politician to follow up. Is it the estimate of these ordinary roads we are seeing? The one I have just mentioned, the one of Kawala, Kasubi.
It is that one.
Then we are dead.
Honorable.
Then we are dead. If that one is going to take 14, I thought this road of Kawara, a kilometer is constructed at like 300 million. Because that is a low cost. Because you just see, even if you come with a good stave like this, once like this, you will go off with the what? With the layer of the chorus.
So Honorable, what do you think is the problem of Kampala? Because we cannot
Kampala, I think.
Wait a minute. The issue we are discussing
the biggest
today,
problem of Kampala is the central government.
the challenges we are experiencing today have been the same challenges.
For me,
have suffered for 20
for me, when Musisi had the support of President Museveni, things were moving very well. The roads, the Kasasiro, everything was removed. Then it is used to fight Lukwago. Lukwago becomes very sophisticated. The riots continue. Then the president withdraws, sees Musisi a big liability, and he believes in other ways of dealing with his politics in the city. He abandons this. In the process, we start seeing now the city becoming worse.
Through budget cuts.
So, if you are not going to be a central government that is committed to solving the problems in the city, you are only interested in fixing your politics. Then,
Honorable,
where do you leave the
the
citizens?
issue of budget cuts, could it be because we don't have money, inadequate funds, no funding, or maybe it is a measure to frustrate the leadership and make the leadership, which are the political leadership in Kampala, look bad and demonize them?
For me, the leadership in Kampala capital city, both the technical and the political, need budgetary support to fix these issues. When you look at we the citizens of Kampala, we need better roads. First of all, to move faster and solve the issues of jam. We need wider roads. Sometimes you sit in a jam in my place when there is no jam. It takes me 7 minutes from my home to Parliament. But when there is a jam, I take 7 hours to reach my home.
Oh my God.
7 hours, I have even bypassed Kagadi when I am dry.
It is a city. Honorable, let me read out some of the messages. People are sending in comments and we need to give them at least. But let me start with Richard Baguma. He says, the contractors will ignore the summons. But even if you invite them or summon them, they will ignore the summons. Like you said, that you have summoned the contractors to the Kampala Capital City Authority to answer questions. The infrastructure expenditure is the sweetest to root. Baguma says, the networks are deep and transcend race, religion, region, levels of education, gender, political party, etc. The current forest must be felled. A hyena doesn't lick its wounds to heal. It instead itself to death. Okay. It instead eats itself to death. I don't know if you pick from what Richard is saying is somehow philosophical in its way. But thank you so much, Richard, for, of course, being part of the discussion. And now a gentleman says, thanks for the show, Mr. Baguma and all, okay, who are in the studio. I'm happy for the notification of that article, but there are still many articles that must be nullified. I wish they also get nullified. My name is Apostle Stephen Kakaire from Buyaga. Thanks so much. And he adds, on the issues of roads, I think there is misuse of funds, because how can only Kampala City have all these expenses on the following? KCC of Madam Chisaka, then one of the Lord Mayor, or why it's called what? Okay, it has a minister, a state minister, and all this money, just the salaries of these people for 5 years can make these roads without going for loans and here and there. So to me, I think we don't need all these authorities in order to have good services to our people. Thanks so much. I think you pick Dr. Gerald. That's where you start from, maybe. Those are some of the comments that are coming in. He says, Mr. Paul, thanks for the program. My question to the Deputy Speaker.
Deputy Speaker is not here.
Oh, Deputy, I think he meant Deputy Lord Mayor. He says, how is the working relationship between the political and technical wing of Kampala City Authority today? He's Dr. Lok Sanga in Chiruhura. Quickly, what is it, the relationship between the technical and the political wing? Is it okay? How is it, the status of
well, really, for us, we are at City Hall to represent the people. So as long as the technical team does not affront the interests of the people, then the relationship is not going to be smooth. And that is why you're now starting to see a contradiction, because I do not need a good relationship with you if the prices of constructing the roads are being hiked. You get it? So usually it's never intended that you're going to be here and we start fighting with the ED, that you're going to be here and start fighting with the director. No. As long as the taxpayers' money is not doing what it is supposed to do, you'll expect a clash, because for us, we are there to make sure there's rule of law. We are there to make sure that the money that is allocated to KCCA does what it is supposed to do.
Okay.
Yes.
I think this is about the cost of the roads. I think it depends on the type of contractor making that road. An international contractor may be slightly expensive, and he is Martin from Nabumali Town Council. I don't know if it makes sense. You will try to respond to that. Start from there. You have only 4 minutes.
Yeah. Maybe to summarize it, since you have given me only 4 minutes, Kampala is suffering about 4 problems. One is the bad politics, that because the opposition controls the local government, therefore the central government has to suffocate the functioning of the council in order to render the opposition leadership irrelevant to the people. But as the history trends have showed, this is counterproductive, because you see, previously NRM used to control the council together with the DP, but now in 2021 NRM was wiped out of the city, because maybe people are saying the politics of the NRM is not serving them. They would rather have only opposition people there. If I was the minister for Kampala, I would also look at the legacy that I want to leave behind. We had here a minister for Kampala who borrowed billions and said was putting free Wi-Fi for Kampala.
I remember him launching
that project was launched with pomp. Have we ever seen, you have lived in Kampala, have you ever seen any free Wi-Fi in Kampala? It was almost about $100 million wasted. Now we are looking at the issue of impunity, but this impunity by the technical wing, that the local government, if you follow the Local Government Act, the KCC Act, these people are not totally powerless. They're supposed to do policy, they're supposed to do oversight, because they represent people. But if a technical person can arrogantly refuse to appear before the political wing, then there is a source of power which we do, an invisible power that is protecting them. But at the end of the day, we are pouring these resources in a ditch, because if I account, you know, in Uganda, we are accounting in a very hopeless way, where you just say, yes, there is an invoice here, the quotation is here, the contract is here, payment was made according to the law. But where is value for money? Now, how do you attain this value for money? When she represents Makerere, and they claim to have done A, B, C, D, the only way you can know what actually happened is by allowing her to present a report from her constituency that she represents. But in this case, the councillors are actually appearing to be useless.
Doctor, some, especially from government, that they are saying the road mayor and his group are playing politics of sabotage in all of this. But
we have seen this is all propaganda. I usually listen to the content. By the way, Lukwago, with all maybe his weaknesses from the way critics call him, he's very good in advocacy, identifying a problem, and is very loud about theft. And I can assure you he made here noise during Musisi's time. Well, the city improved, but the budget was so huge, and some decisions that Lukwago posed later costed the KCCA in terms of court compensations to individuals. We saw how pioneer buses came in the city. The Lord Mayor said, the way you are entering is wrong, you are going to fail. But Musisi said, no, I've talked with URA by mouth. You are going to be protected, you will not pay tax for this period of time. Eventually we saw URA collecting all buses and parking them at Nambole. And now, if we cannot think, people, if we travel, honestly, we are even ashamed to call Kampala a city. We need sustainable cities. Majority of Kampala people who are earning below 300,000 a month are spending half of their money on transport alone.
Unfortunately, our time.
Okay.
No, I actually wanted to briefly
I want him to wind up, give his parting.
Just the last one on this issue here. Look at the land they want to acquire.
Exactly.
In
That's what I was
Kisenyi.
going to talk about.
In Kisenyi. How can land in Kisenyi be more expensive than Kololo? That you are buying an acre at $10 million, which means you are buying 10 acres at $100 million borrowed, then later you borrow again to construct a market. You know?
Okay. You're parting short in
Yes,
just 30 seconds.
You know, you talked about sabotage.
Yeah.
Is it sabotage when we tell the citizens that money is being stolen?
You don't want the city to progress.
Is it sabotage when we tell them that a kilometer in Kampala is going to cost a taxpayer 14 billion? Is that sabotage? Is it sabotage when we tell citizens that 10 acres of land belonging to one Bosco Mwonge is going to be bought at 378 billion, bigger than the KCCA budget? Is it sabotage? Okay. So that is not sabotage. Like I have said, it's not going to be under the watch of the Lord Mayor. It is not going to be under the watch of me, his deputy, that taxpayers' money is going to be swindled and we just keep quiet.
30 seconds, speak to the people of Kampala.
Now, to the people of Kampala, you have us as your leaders, and we appreciate your support. We are going to continue fighting for you. We are going to continue advocating for you. Because there are things that we have been talking about. We have been talking about the construction of markets. We have been saying each division needs to have a market. Only for us to hear a declaration now coming from State House saying they are going to construct 2 markets per division, and yet when you look at our KCCA budget, this money is not there. So I think the way Mr. Museveni is trying to interfere in the running of KCCA affairs is unfortunate.
It's unfortunate.
We have been talking about the markets. He goes there and appoints one Susan Kushaba, gives her the military. It is really very
Honorable,
unfortunate.
30 seconds, speak to our people. You sit in Parliament.
For me, I would want to see Kampala capital city, both the technical and the politicians working together to deliver services to our Ugandans. And I want to ask President Museveni is over micromanaging the city. He's over micromanaging the city, And you know, this city President Museveni is going to live beyond you. We have asked you to return in 2026. Maybe the other
You
term.
have also asked him.
Yeah, because me, I do not agree with his son
But
saying
but
he
we have other people.
Honorable, our
apart from
time
his
is
son.
up. Please, please.
Don't you know I'm also contesting?
Let the Honorable finish. Because
let's first deal with the issue of this standby generator that is full of munanasi. Then we will sort out ourselves.
Honorable, I think the Honorable VP answered your call. This week, the VP said,
yeah, she made
it is on. President Museveni will be on the ballot, whatever happens.
Yeah,
Viewers,
she
our time is
made
up.
my week.
It's very unfortunate.
Our time is up. We will be back here next week
But I thought you
on
opposed to
Saturday.
the
But I must
amendment of
thank
the
Honorable
Constitution.
Barnabas
No, they
Tinkasimire. I
defeated
must
us.
thank
They
Honorable
defeated us. I had to come
I must thank Dr. Gerald Wanzala for this great discussion. Barnabas Richard Baguma, thank you so much for your contribution. But on top of all, we must thank our viewers, Kagadi Broadcasting Services, who push our voices far, far, far into the DRC. Thank you so much, our viewers. A great weekend. Bye-bye.